Welcome, boys and girls, to another day of learning. My name is Miss Lydia, and I'm your teacher today. This is Miss Sherry, and she's going to be helping me out. We have been learning all about amphibians. Today, we will continue to explore more about amphibians. In the previous lesson, you learned that amphibians live in water and on land. Well, today, we are going to read about and discuss the life cycle of an amphibian, the toad. For this lesson, you will need a sheet of paper and a pencil, crayons, markers, or colored pencils to complete the activity at the end of the lesson. I'll give you a moment to go collect those now. Before we get started today, Miss Sherry, what do you say we play a riddle game to review what we've been learning in this domain?
Oh, okay. That sounds like fun. I like riddles.
All right, I've got my cards here. Here we go. I'm going to say the riddles, and you and our friends at home are going to guess the answers. All right.
All right, great. All right, friends at home, be sure to listen.
I am the process of organizing animal groups based on particular characteristics. What am I called?
That would be animal classification or taxonomy, what we've been learning about.
That's right. We've been learning about different types of animal groups and their classifications. Next riddle. This one is long, so make sure you're listening carefully. I am a person with a high level of knowledge about the natural world based on facts learned through observations and experiments. I classify animals into groups according to their characteristics. What am I?
Okay, friends at home, Rattenborough taught us about this one. It's a taxonomist.
That's right. That would be such a fun job. Okay, here's our next one. I am an animal whose body temperature is maintained by my surroundings. It is not constant. What am I?
Friends, do you know? That's right, a cold-blooded animal.
Ooh, great job. Okay, next one. I am an animal whose body temperature is a constant temperature and does not depend on the temperature of my surroundings. What am I?
Okay, friends, do you know this one? Well, I think that would be a warm-blooded animal.
Yes, certain animals and humans are all warm-blooded. You're doing a great job, friends. I'm an animal with a backbone. What am I?
I think I remember this one. It was a vertebrate.
Oh, yes, that's right. Animals with backbones are vertebrates. Okay, two more. I am an aquatic animal with gills and fins, and I have a body covered in scales. What am I?
Okay, I know this one. It's a fish, right, friends?
Yes, a fish. We just finished learning about them. Okay, last one. I am an animal that can live both on land and in water. What am I?
Okay, that would be an amphibian.
That's right. And amphibians are what we are going to be learning more about today. Amphibians are a group of vertebrate animals that have specific classifications that we're going to learn about now. We already know that amphibians live in water and on land. They also go through a transformation from the time they are born to a full-grown adult. Miss Sherry, can you tell me a few of the examples of amphibians?
Sure, of course, Miss Lydia. Some examples of amphibians include animals like newts and toads.
Great job. Next, let's review some more vocabulary words before we read our chapter on amphibians for the day. We have discussed the word amphibians, so let's move to our next word, which is tadpole. What do you think a tadpole is, Miss Sherry?
Okay, so I'm thinking a tadpole is a young frog or toad that has a long tail, breathes with gills, and lives in water.
That is correct. A tadpole is a young frog or toad and lives in the water. Our next word is fragile. Have you ever heard your mom say, "Be careful with that box of items, it is very fragile"? What do you think the word fragile means? That's right. Fragile means easily broken or damaged. Let's look at our final word, absorb. What do you think absorb means, Miss Sherry?
Well, I know that toad's skin can absorb oxygen through water, so absorbs must mean to take in or suck up like a sponge.
You are correct again. You're on a roll, Miss Sherry. You're doing great at home as well. Now that we've learned our vocabulary words, let's take a moment to review them. We are going to look at this chart here and we're going to read the sentences and figure out which word best fits into our sentences. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, friends at home, be sure you're helping us. The first one is a toad's moist skin blank oxygen from the water. Our 4 vocabulary choices are down here at the bottom, and they're fragile, tadpole, absorbs, and amphibian. So let's think about this. A toad's moist skin blank oxygen from the water. Miss Sherry, do you have an idea?
Oh, I think this one must be, I think we went over this. I remember, I think it was absorbs.
That's right. Let's go back and read our sentence to make sure it makes sense. A toad's moist skin absorbs oxygen from the water. What do you think, boys and girls? Great job. Let's go to number 2. A frog is an example of a blank. I have left fragile, tadpole, and amphibian. What do you think, boys and girls? Did you say amphibian? Let's reread our sentence. A frog is an example of an amphibian. Third one, toad eggs hatch into blank. Miss Sherry, do you know the answer to this one? We have fragile and tadpole left.
Oh, let's see. Well, I do remember that a tadpole is one of the parts of the life cycle of a frog or a toad. So I'm going to go with tadpole.
That's right. Toad eggs hatch into a tadpole. Great job. A tadpole is very blank. Our last word is fragile. Let's put it in there and check to see if we're right. A tadpole is very fragile. That makes sense. Great job, boys and girls. All right, now what we are going to do is we are going to read our chapter on amphibians from water to land to explore more about amphibians. Greetings once again from your pal and animal expert, Rattenborough. Are you ready to learn about another group of animals within the animal kingdom? This is the group we are going to talk about today and is really interesting. They live both in water and on land. This group of animals is called amphibians. The word amphibian comes from the Latin meaning both sides of life. Amphibians are classified into 3 more specific groups. Frogs and toads are the largest group. Salamanders and newts make up another. Animals in the 3rd group do not have legs, so they look more like large snakes. We don't know as much about this group of amphibians because they live mostly underground. To understand the life cycle of an amphibian, let's take a closer look at an American toad. Like all amphibians, toads are cold-blooded. An amphibian's body temperature changes as the outdoor temperature changes. Some amphibians hibernate during the winter. Some toads dig deep underground. Other amphibians, like frogs, bury themselves in mud at the bottom of a pond. Hibernating amphibians can survive for months. They do not move or eat, using only the fat stored in their body to stay alive. Frogs and toads and all amphibians are also vertebrates. Miss Sherry, are toads warm-blooded or cold-blooded animals?
I think I remember that toads were one of those animals that were cold-blooded.
That's right. They're cold-blooded animals. Now, can you tell me how long a hibernating frog can survive?
Oh, wow. I think that they can hibernate and they can survive for months.
That's right. They can hibernate for months under the ground. Back to our story. A toad's life cycle begins as one of the thousands of soft, slimy eggs. The mother lays her eggs close to shore in a pond, lake, or calm spot in a river or stream. But most of these eggs will never hatch. Instead, they will be eaten by fish or other animals. If the water moves the eggs away from the shore and into direct sunlight, the eggs will dry out and die. What does a toad's life begin as? What do you think, friends? Do you remember from our story? That's right. A toad's life begins as a slimy egg. Out of the thousands of eggs laid, a few hundred toad eggs manage to hatch into tadpoles. A tadpole is very fragile. Its young body is made up mainly of a mouth, a tail, and gills. At this stage, tadpoles are aquatic. Like fish, they use gills to breathe underwater. What does a toad egg hatch into? Correct again, it begins as a tadpole. After a while, tadpoles begin swimming around and eating tiny aquatic plants. Tadpoles tend to stay together in schools, like fish. However, this makes it more likely that other animals will be able to catch and eat them. Most tadpoles end up as fish snacks. If a tadpole survives for a month, skin will begin to grow over its gills. After about 6 to 9 weeks, the tadpole also starts to grow little legs. As its body changes, the young frog or toad starts to look less like an aquatic animal and more like a land animal. After a few months, a young amphibian will make its way out of the water to land. At this stage, it may still have a tail, but that won't last long. By this time, its gills have become lungs. That means the toad now breathes oxygen from the air instead of oxygen from the water, like fish. Soon, it will be a full-grown adult toad living and hopping around on land. Adult amphibians are carnivores, eating insects, small reptiles, and even mice. Adult toads are very good swimmers and can even swim underwater, but they cannot use their lungs to breathe underwater. Instead, their thin, moist skin absorbs oxygen from the water. Amphibians are a very interesting animal group. Amphibians are the only type of animal that have both gills and lungs. As adults, they live on land but lay eggs in the water. The Latin meaning of the word amphibian makes perfect sense. Now that we have finished our story, let's review the characteristics of amphibians. To do this, we are going to look at this classification chart. Classification charts can assist us in remembering the specific characteristics that belong to amphibians. Repeat these characteristics after me. Amphibians are vertebrates. Amphibians are cold-blooded. Amphibians breathe with gills and then with lungs. Amphibians have smooth, slimy skin. Amphibians lay eggs in water. Amphibians do not look like their parents when born. This chart will help us as we move through this series of lessons and learn about different types of vertebrates. Now that we have read our story, let's do an activity to show the life cycle of an amphibian. Remember that piece of paper and coloring utensils that I asked you to get? you're going to need those now. And we are going to draw the life cycle of an amphibian. Now, I'm not the best at drawing, but I sure am going to try my best. And that's how we want you to do at home too, friends, okay? Here is my chart, and it says life cycle of an amphibian. Can anyone help me remember how that life cycle starts out? Miss Sherry, do you remember?
I do. I think it starts out as an egg.
Great. To do all of our drawing today, we're going to use letters because I know that you can write all of your letters and I can too. So to do that, we're going to make an array of 9 letter O's. Great. Here are our eggs. I also want to label this. Eggs. That is the first stage of the life cycle of an amphibian. Now that I've done this part, I need to draw an arrow over to my tadpole. Now we're going to draw the tadpole because that's the second step as the life cycle of an amphibian. To do this, I'm going to draw a large O and a sideways V. Now I'm going to label it tadpole. Now I need to make sure I draw my arrow that comes around. The third stage of the life cycle of an amphibian after the egg and the tadpole is a young amphibian. This one's going to be tough, but I know you can do it. We're going to start off by drawing another capital O. Make sure it's pretty big. Now at the top, we're going to draw the letter U, but upside down. And we're going to need 2 of them. Great job. Now, inside of my letter U, I'm going to make 2 lowercase O's. What do you think those are? That's right, our eyes. Now our frog is going to need a mouth. I'm going to use the letter U again. There's our mouth. Isn't he cute? Now I need to draw his front legs. To do that, I'm going to make 2 capital W's down here near the bottom. That's going to allow his legs to be in the front. I'll give you a second to catch up. Great job. Now I need to make sure I put my back legs on. To do that, on the left side, I'm going to draw a letter Q. And on the right side, I'm going to put a letter P. Good. Remember those W's we drew earlier? We're going to do that again, but this time they're going to be sideways. Watch me first. I'll give you a second to draw yours. Great job. Now, there was one main difference between a young amphibian and an adult amphibian. Do you remember what that is, Miss Sherry?
Well, I think maybe that it doesn't have its tail.
The young amphibian does still have its tail, so let's make sure we draw that on there. To do that, I'm just going to draw a letter V over here to the side for his tail. Now I want to label it young amphibian. Great job. You may want to go back later and add your labels if you're having a hard time keeping up. Now we have our last stage, and that's our adult amphibian. The only thing we need to leave off is our tail at the end. So let's do it again. You're an expert by now. Start with a large capital O. Make your 2 U shapes at the top. Your 2 circles inside of his eyes. Another letter U for his mouth. Now I need my Q and a P. Last step. Oh, and I just realized I forgot a step. We forgot his front legs. That's okay. I can go back because I'm an artist and I realized I figured that out. I'm going to put my 2 W's at the front, and now I can add my 2 W's for the back. This is my adult amphibian. Great job, boys and girls. I'll give you 1 second to get caught up. Can you believe that you were able to draw the life cycle of an amphibian? You have done such a great job today.
Boys and girls, I bet you were just great listeners and artists today. I know I loved Miss Lydia's poster, and I even learned something today. I'm going to go home and try to draw my own frog today using the letters of the alphabet. So, we're going to be back soon to learn more about some amazing animals. All rights and credits for today's lesson belong to Core Knowledge Language Arts. We would like to thank them for publicly sharing these valuable resources with us. The views and opinions expressed in this lesson are those of the Core Knowledge authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Mississippi Department of Education. Bye, friends.